And a pleasant good evening to you and yours. And welcome to the Brevard Sports Network and Mouthin off Sports Talk. I think we're good here. Yeah, we are. I just wanted to double check just to make sure. You never know. Caleb, the producer, not here at the moment. He's off doing Brevard SC soccer, and I happened to check in the waning seconds of that game, and the hometown guys are unfortunately losing 2-1, and we are inching ever so close to the start of both the NFL and the college football season. So we broke out the helmets, but got the Orioles helmet on top. We'll get to all of it tonight coming up. Got the orange, as we say in the Mid-Atlantic, the orange Orioles jersey on tonight. That by request from not one but two different people tonight. My good buddy Jeff DiPianta being one of them. Jeff in Louisiana now, for those of you that didn't know. Jeff, of course, used to be the athletic director down at Calvary, and he is now in Louisiana. So good luck to Jeff and his beautiful wife and his beautiful family in his adventures and endeavors in Louisiana. But as always, joining me here tonight on Mouthin Off Sports Talk, my partner in crime. Please help me welcome the man, the myth, the living legend himself, my man, Anthony Nachreiner. Knock, how you doing, buddy?
Long on myth and short on legend, my
Long
friend.
on myth and short on legend. How you been, man? We got the second coaches show is coming up this week, and we did the first one
Yeah.
on Tuesday night, and there you see on your screen who's going to be here this coming Tuesday at Walk-Ons. Tuesday is for coaches at Walk-Ons: Ryan Schneider, Hurley Brown, Ben Waldrop. Mitchell Brown's going to be there for Dan Burke, Michael Benson at Heritage, Cliff Nichols from Space Coast, Shane Staples, Tyler Murray. Seemed like you had a lot of fun Tuesday night.
Oh, absolutely. I got back to doing what I've been used to, for so many years. I miss doing it in Montana, and I miss doing it here locally, back in 2016 and doing it for the 4 years I was there. And like I said, it was just fun to talk. It's fun to talk. It's just fun to talk football, man.
It is.
I mean, it really is. To get an idea with these coaches, talk about their players. For me, learning a lot of names, learning a lot of new faces, a lot of new head coaches. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if Ainsley will be there Tuesday, but he's pretty much, and outside of Dan Burke, but pretty much Ainsley would be the only one I kind of remember from when I was here as a head coach. Yeah, I know it's crazy, but it's great. It was a ton of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I can't wait to talk to more coaches this coming Tuesday. Like I said, being out there doing those shows was a lot of fun, and like I said, getting to do stuff like that again is just really a blessing for me, and I was really excited to do it with you. And like I said, it was fun to bounce off of you. Like I said, we always have a good laugh and poke fun at each other.
No, it was a good time, and it's going to be a good time again on Tuesday night. Second of three coaches shows. The fourth one, or the third one, I should say, actually will be a little bit shorter. Don't forget, for you football players out there, you student athletes out there, don't forget, coming up next Sunday, the road to Dallas. It's the high school football combine. July 30th, next Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Tom McIntyre Stadium. That's on the campus of Melbourne High School. College coaches will be announced soon. You got to sign up by Thursday. You have got to sign up by Thursday. Okay, so I'll make sure all this week that the information for this combine is on Brevard Sports Network. But you can go to Global Sports on Facebook, and the link is there, and you'll see that picture. And make sure you click, because I'm telling you, your camps will be opening soon. Zybex Sports, the official timer of the NFL Combine, will be keeping time, and therefore that means you'll get one of those Zybex Sports cards in which they will keep your stats and information for you throughout your high school football careers. And the special thing about this is eighth graders and those not yet committed. So you could have graduated, but you're not yet committed, are also welcome to the combine. We're going to talk some high school football tonight. Some people have put out some early season rankings, and we'll get to that as well. But as always, this show is brought to you by Archaic Design Incorporated. Russ and Christy just do a terrific job. Archaic Design. Please check them out online, archaicdesign.com. Give them a call at 321-956-2066. Everything you need, including the kitchen sink for your home. Lot going on, even though NFL camps have started this week, so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into NFL news and notes. We're going to go through all of it, but as we always do, we start with local sports, and just want to let you know our summer series of interviews is winding down here. Our final week of those will be recorded this week, but in studio this past week that you'll see this coming week, the two Jakes, Weatherspoon and Richardson, two outstanding baseball players that graduated for the Melbourne Bulldogs. Jake Weatherspoon going to USF. Jake Richardson to Indian River State College. We also brought in the Heritage Panthers, as we have every year for the past 3 years. And there you see them on your screen. Their interview will air this week. And we also began our youth football visits, and we'll continue with those this week. We're going to get on over to Rockledge, and we're also going to go see the Melbourne Chargers as well. So we will continue. You'll see West Melbourne, who we begin with every year, and you'll see that coming up this week as well. Now, the young man that I am about to put on the screen here, I want to make sure that I have the information pulled up here. So give me just a second to get it pulled up. There we go. This young man on the screen, there you see him in his Team USA jacket, but that young man will be a graduate of Merritt Island High School next year. His name is Christian LaCory. Christian is now a part of the Junior Team USA for 2024. That's for bowling. He was presented with his jacket and his photo shoot from the Junior Gold Championship, 12 boys and 12 girls, qualified for the Junior USA team, U20 and U18 divisions, the top 4 male bowlers and top 4 female bowlers after 26 games of qualifying, and the champions and co-champions in each division earn spots on the Junior USA team. It's a tremendous honor, and so congratulations to Merritt Island's Christian LaCory. He is not the first Brevard County, former Brevard County bowler to do this. John Janowitz, Sean Evans, Brian Flugel, Elise Bolton, Greg Young, Michael Coffey, Crystal Elliott, and Chris Loschetter also accomplished this feat. And I want to thank Cocoa Tiger head bowling coach Michael Bauer, because Michael always makes sure that I've got the bowling news that I need as well. So he certainly did that. Look, man, you know, we didn't get to cover as much, if any, high school bowling last year. I think we tried once or twice. It just didn't work out with the schedule. But it is my commitment to make sure that we get in there this year and do at least 4 or 5 matches like we have in years past as well. Knock, how's your bowling game?
So, if that tells you anything, funny story.
Yeah.
So one of the first dates that I had, we went bowling, and we turned the bowling games into a 7-game series between me and my girlfriend that tells you how much of a sports fan she is.
Right. Best of 7.
Best of 7.
Gotcha.
I had the lead in Game 6. I was up 21 points with about 3 frames left.
Okay.
She needed 3 strikes. She ended up getting like 2 strikes and a spare. She ended up getting the points that she needed to beat me by 1 in Game 6. Now, ultimately, I took the series in 7, but I blew the lead. I pulled the Warriors.
Now, how does that work out? How does that work out in your house? Like, when you win a competition, how does it work out?
Well, most of the time I don't win, Alan.
Okay.
So
okay.
Most of the time I don't end up winning, because even though I may have won, she wins always. So
I got you. I hear you. That's a fair enough response. That's a fair enough response.
But yeah, no, it's fun. I'll tell you what though, it's we were kind of already arguing because she's already like, there's just too much football on already, because I wanted to watch another episode of Quarterbacks before I came into the studio today. And she's just like, no, we've been watching too much football already. You've been doing football all day. You did football all week. We're not doing football yet. It's not football season. I'm like, you would disagree with me if it was hockey season.
Right. Well, she would be sitting there previewing hockey with me. You wouldn't be sitting there, bud. I mean, let's be honest about this. I mean, if I'm going to preview hockey this year, she's the one going to do it. Oh, yeah. No,
she knows far more than I do.
I want to say congratulations to Justin Vallon, the former Cocoa Tiger, committed to Shaw University this week to play basketball. So congratulations to Justin Vallon, and we'll get a post up for him as well. Trying to think if there's anything else on a local level, and I can't really come up with anything. And again, please don't forget about next Sunday and the road to Dallas with the Global Sports Athletic Brevard County Regional Combine. I believe the invites have been sent out. So make sure if you want to go, you register. And again, the biggest part about that, aside from the fact that it's global sports, is Zybex Sports. Maybe you participated in the camp put on by Uberzadi over at Holy Trinity, so you know just exactly what you get there. So, Knock, I said that in the previews that we were going to discuss high school football a little bit tonight and some of these rankings that have been put out already. I'll let you kick this off because this was a topic last week that you had brought up to me that we kind of discussed. And I'll kind of go through our philosophy a little bit. But we've seen quite a bit of them out there already, haven't we?
I was about to say, these rankings are coming out earlier and earlier. I mean, and to be honest with you, kids aren't done transferring yet.
No.
So these rankings can change in a hurry. But I mean, listen, as in terms of fodder for us to talk about, it's fantastic because let's face it, there's the reason why we see the preseason media polls. We saw the Big 12s. So it is. I do enjoy it in terms of that fact because it does give us something to discuss. But at the same time, too, like I said, it's just. I mean, with high school football, you really just. It's not like the colleges where you have set rosters. I mean, coaches are still putting together their roster, the numbers, all of those types of things. And I think it's going to be interesting because, like I said, where can you really put teams? Where can you really say that, okay, this team's rebuilding? Because it's not like college footballing where we can go to the transfer portal.
Here's what you do. Every year with that, and we don't put out any rankings. Now, maybe we hurt ourselves in terms of clicks, views, and arguments and debates and things of that nature. But it never made – you can preview all you want.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But it never made much sense to me to do a ranking of any kind at all until you've seen these teams play.
Agreed.
And 1 week does not tell a tale, nor does two.
No.
That's why each and every year for the past 3 years now, we haven't released our rankings until week 5. And when we do release them, then we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because all of us vote, and of course you'll be a part of that this year. We do our Super 7. And but if you were going to do rankings, it's always Cocoa, Rockledge, Rockledge, Cocoa, right? You put them in a bag, you shake them up, you pull them out. You watch everybody argue online which team's better than this team that year, which team has this. But it's always Cocoa, Rockledge, Rockledge, Cocoa.
Yeah.
It's not going to change anytime soon in the foreseeable future. As long as Wayne Younger's at Rockledge, as long as Ryan Schneider's at Cocoa, as long as they continue to get the same student athletes, they're going to be the best 2 schools in the county, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You're animated.
It's not rocket science, right? But maybe it becomes rocket science after you get to 3 through 5. Now, theoretically, if you look, the 3rd best team in the county this year, 4th best team in the county, and again, you could probably put these 2 teams in a bag and shake them up. Probably Heritage and O'Galley, in my opinion. O'Galley's got a great offensive line. Heritage has got the 17 transfers, so who knows how that's going to judge. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
Agreed. But I think the most interesting point, and this is where it's fun for guys like you and me, and I think even for fans too, is that debate. Because we know what Cocoa is. Every team in Brevard County, whether they want to admit it or not, is trying to get to the status of where Cocoa's at. Now, and Rockledge is the closest team right now. They're missing the trophy in the cabinet in the last 10 to 15 years, but Cocoa's close. Other teams have made great strides in that department. Vieira, for a time, was known to be one of the best teams as well, probably the best team in the south of the county. But at this point, it is just fun to look at that 3-4 debate, that 5-6 debate. And for me, it's just like, okay, and it was kind of what we talked about with some of the coaches last week, is just like there's some energy that's really great to see because these programs are not the Cocos and the Rockledge. We don't know what the expectations are, but they got a ton of great kids. How could it turn out for them? Along with some of the younger teams that maybe we don't know that much about because they don't have the high-profile kids, but we're going to learn a lot about those kids this season when they get a chance to play.
So what we did, you and I, to piss everybody off, was we said, Well, we can't let them guys have all the fun with the rankings, right?
Right.
So we said, let's take all 17 teams that play 11-man football in Brevard County because I don't want to leave out Merritt Island Christian and I don't want to leave out Calvary Chapel because they both play an exciting brand of 8-man football.
8-man is fun.
But we have 16 teams that play 11-man football in Brevard County. So we don't want to leave those teams out. And this year, Space Coast and Cocoa Beach will both compete in the SSAC, and they're both going to compete to play in the playoffs, okay? So what we did was we decided, you and I said we would put these teams in tiers. And
I think the tier system's better.
Huh?
I think the tier system's better.
I like the tier system, at least to start the season, right? So the first tier that we came up with was these teams or this team or whatever, they're playing late in December. These are the teams that are state championship material.
Right.
Who do you have, Knock?
Right now, I'm going to put Cocoa right there. Cocoa's constantly they've got a I don't know if it's a state record yet, but it's got to be the amount of times that they're always in the state semifinals.
Right.
So Cocoa's
15
automatically
15
straight years. They're a lock. They haven't missed the state semifinals, so I'm not going to say that they're going to miss this year. They're a lock there. I like them, but they're the only team that I would put in this category right now.
I'm going to put Rockledge in there this year. All right. Now I know Rockledge hasn't won a state championship since. They won it in 2002. Yeah. I think they went back. Yeah, they went back to back in 01 and 02, I believe it was. But if we're talking about this year, last year I think you would find a lot of people in Rockledge kicking themselves in the butt because they had a shot to beat the team that went on to become the state champ in Mainland. Rockledge had them at home, lost by 2 points. I'm sure to a man that a lot of people would say we would do this different or we would, it's not for us, the Monday morning quarterback, but I am sure a lot of people do, okay? True. But I believe with the schedule that they're playing, and you can look at that schedule, and I'll say this, I believe that Rockledge schedule is tougher than, and this is hard to say, but if you compare the two schedules, because Coco's not playing a cream puff schedule.
No.
But if you look at Rockledge's schedule, I think it might be just a tad bit tougher than the one Coco's playing. So it's going to be interesting to see what these two teams come up with against each other in the Barbecue Bowl this year at Rockledge. They're going down to play Duncanville, Texas. Rockledge is, who was 15-0 last year. They are the 6A Texas state champs. That is no joke, Knock. I mean, you remember back in 2015 when Vieira went down to play Allen, Texas. And what ended up happening that season for Vieira? They went on, they played one of the tougher schedules in the entire state that year. I think they played 8 teams that reached the playoffs, and Vieira ended up reaching the state championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old Dan Burke thing, right? To be the best, you got to beat, to be the best, you got to play the best, right? I've constantly heard from all of these coaches in this county that if that's what Dan Burke used to preach. That's the type of schedule you have to play if you want to be good in the month of November and December, right?
Yeah.
Well, Rockledge has gone out, and they have done it this year. And I'm going to read the schedule. And, again, I'm not, you can put their schedule and Coco's schedule in a bag and shake them up. And, I mean, Seminole, Duncanville, Osceola, Trinity Christian.
That's tough.
That's a tough schedule, right?
But the only one, because Rockledge and Cocoa share common opponents, and that would be Seminole.
Correct.
That would be the only one, though,
That's
besides
the
the
only
local
one.
teams.
The Cocoa schedule, Jones, Venice, St. Thomas, Seminole. Yeah. And then they play each other. I'm talking about out of county.
Right. That's what I mean.
Right.
Out of county, Seminole's the only one that's common.
So Cocoa's going to play a state champ, a defending state champ, and a state semifinalist. And I know Venice was a state semifinalist last year. St. Thomas was a state champ last year. But so these schedules are, depending upon what school of thought you come from, they're neck and neck. I mean, these are some hard schedules. But for me, it will harden both of these programs because I don't believe if Cocoa doesn't play the schedule they played last year, they don't win. I don't think they win the state championship. I believe that schedule prepared them for the adversity they had to overcome against Florida State University, damn near 5 miles from their own high school campus. They played them, right? Less than that. And some of the things they went through adversity-wise. So I believe it was that schedule that prepared the Tigers last year for that game. Look, a lot of people forget Seminole scored with under 10 seconds to play in the game to force overtime. Cocoa could have hung their heads and walked off and said, we don't have a shot to win this football game. But they didn't. And they didn't because they were battle-tested and they were hardened. So these schedules matter. So that's tier 1.
Okay,
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean, I agree. I think the only reason I don't put Rockledge, didn't have Rockledge in that tier 1 for me is just because, again, I know Rockledge they just had some unfortunate events when it comes to the playoffs, whether it's guys missing, guys injured,
right?
But that's the thing, and I think that's what, and I agree with your entire premise, the fact that this is why they made the schedule they did.
Right.
This is about hardening and getting ready because we know how good Rockledge is. It's not a question of Rockledge getting to the playoffs.
Right.
It's a question how far can they go, and that's
they go?
what they're trying to do now.
What will the adjustments be? Because
I think some of it's a little bit of luck just because of injuries.
it is a little bit of luck. But where will the adjustments be made in game? All of it matters.
Oh, yeah.
All of it matters. So, all right, let's go on to tier 2. And tier 2 is a deep playoff run, right?
Yeah.
At least 2+ playoff wins. Who do you have this year in Brevard County, as you see, with a team capable of winning 2 or more playoff games this year?
I see Rockledge, I see Heritage, and I see O'Galley. That's the 3 teams that I have in that list for me. I like all 3 of those teams. I think Heritage, with what they did, they got high expectations, and they've got some great football players on their roster. They got an exciting group, but this is the reason, and this is what they're doing for, because their classification, their district. I mean, I can't remember what the classification is.
Right. They're all metro.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, they're all suburban. And who are you asking about?
Heritage.
Heritage is 4 suburban, 4S.
Okay, so because they've got a lot of tough teams to get through just to get to regional final, to state semifinal,
Correct.
those types of things. So I know for Heritage, it's about getting to that point, and I think they can with the players that they have, with the roster they have. So Heritage is in there, and talking to Coach Chris Sands last week, just again the young players that they have a lot of experience. They have the rushing attack. I think O'Galley's
offensive, defensive lines.
Right, exactly, and I think that gets you 2 playoff wins. Is the experience in the trenches and the size in the trenches, I think they can get you 2 playoff wins.
Since I put Rockledge in that tier 1 group, my tier 2 group is also 3 teams, and it also includes O'Galley and Heritage. But this year, because I'm going to take Coach at his word on this, I'm going to put Titusville in there.
All right.
I'm going to put Titusville in there because I asked Coach Holmes last week what the expectation was for this team this year, and his answer was a regional final. And I like the way he answered the question. I like how direct he was about it. I like how, as a matter of fact, he was about it. I like the transfers they got in. Jamarion Stevens is our reigning MVP. Okay? I love the players. I love this team. I love what they did last year. So I'm going to say that I'm going to call it now. That second or third round playoff game is Titusville and Cocoa. Now, I think Cocoa wins, but I'm going to take Coach at his word that that's where they go, because I don't think Titusville can make it to a regional final, because I think they're at least going to play Cocoa there. And I know that this tier is 2 or more playoff wins, but I'm going to put Titusville there anyway. So
fair enough.
We'll see how it rolls down, right? Okay. So the next tier that we had was tier 3, and these are teams that we feel will at least make the playoffs this year. Whether or not they win a game, I don't know. We'll see. Brevard County had 9 teams make the playoffs last year. Knock. Who were the teams in your tier 3?
So, bouncing off what you just said, I have Titusville in that tier. And again, I just think based off what we talked about with Coach Holmes last week, I think absolutely they got a great team. I think their schedule's a little bit tougher. I think they're going to be a really solid team. But like I said, because essentially it's still in the playoffs, you're still going to see a local team within the second round, right?
Right.
So, like I said, that's why I have Titusville just a peg under. It's just because I know that they would likely see Cocoa at that point.
In that second round, right.
In that second round. So I know they'll make the playoffs. They'll be a dangerous football team. But I like Satellite. I like Cocoa Beach. I like what Coach Waldrop's bringing to the table with that team. I thought what they've done this summer is pretty impressive in the 7-on-7s.
And they're in the SSAC. They got a good chance to go far this year.
Yeah. And MCC as well. Again, with the talent that they've massed up there, I like what they've done. I think they can go and make the playoffs. So those are the 4 teams I got in there: Satellite, Cocoa Beach, MCC, and Titusville.
So my disagreement with you this year would be I've got Palm Bay, Cocoa Beach, MCC, and I know it says Titusville in there, but I would say Palm Beach, Cocoa Beach, MCC, Palm Bay is my 3 teams. I got 8 teams in Brevard County, 7 FHSAA teams, 7 FHSAA teams, and I've got Cocoa Beach from the SSAC going to the playoffs. Last year we sent 9. You've got 8 Brevard County teams in one SSAC. Now our final tier are teams that are young, that are actually we got 2 more tiers left. We got on the cusp and young and building. So on the cusp and young and building for you.
On the cusp, I mean, I like Palm Bay, Melbourne, and Merritt Island. I think there's pieces there for those teams to make the playoffs. It's going to be tough because of the teams that are in, in their districts and stuff like that. So I like Palm Bay, I like Melbourne, I like Merritt Island. They're good, tough teams. We're talking about legacy programs, obviously, but again, they do have, an uphill battle to get to the playoffs. So I think it's going to be tough. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if we find these 3 teams on the cusp of making the playoffs and maybe getting in. So I like Palm Bay, Melbourne, and Merritt Island.
And then you've got Young and Building, Vieira, Holy Trinity, Bayside, Astronaut, and Space Coast. Now let me just preface this by saying this is not a knock on these programs. If we're talking about a program like Vieira, does anybody really expect the team to go 0-10 and turn around and go 9-1? No, I don't. Certainly that would be the story of the year, right?
It would.
But this is still a young football team, and there's still some work to be done. As I wrote in there, in kind of Coach Staples' coaching preview there, it's a toss-up as to whether the wins will be more than the losses or the losses will be more than the wins. But we're going to find out. But what I can guarantee you is this is not an 0-10 team.
No, exactly. And then that was my biggest thing is I think they've got a lot of pieces here. But, again, it's just how the ball bounces, how the schedule falls for them. Like I said, I think Vieira and Holy Trinity are going to be some really, really interesting teams. But they do have some young pieces.
Rogan McNabb, the quarterback at Holy Trinity. Yeah,
right. I mean, and, Shane Staples, second year. Hurley Brown, second year, both their programs. Continuing to get their cultures and the way they want things done installed. That doesn't just happen overnight. And I think the other programs, Space Coast, I think, going to the Sunshine, or what is it? The
Sunshine State Athletic Conference.
Right. Thank you. I think going to that.
That's a great move, by the way.
I think that's a great move for them. I think they can because I think Space Coast can be very competitive. So I think Coach Clifton Nichols, I think they're going to be able to pack up a few more wins this year. And I think with Astronaut, I just don't know what Astronaut has. I know they've got Logan Howard.
Yeah, I don't know yet myself.
Right. And so, like I said, I just think there's some intrigue into these teams, but there are pieces, and I would say Bayside too. We talked to Coach last week.
Bill Miller, right.
Right. And Coach Miller talked about the things that he's doing. He's got some young, talented football players. So, like I said, this is not a knock on these programs. They just got young pieces. You just don't know if they have enough pieces against some of these other teams in the county to get them to the playoffs.
You know what I really believed? I thought Billy Miller gave one of the best answers I've ever heard a head coach give when I asked what his expectations are for the program. And he said, my only concern right now is to build, is what I care about, is what these student athletes will be at 25 as opposed to what they'll be at 18. And I really like that answer because I think before you can transpose or transfer any program into a winning one, you've got to build it. You've got to build it from the foundation up. You've got to build that character. You've got to build that camaraderie. All of those things have to be built, but you have to build young men.
Right.
And I think Billy Miller's perfect for that job. Now, see, Doc, I think we did it the right way, right? I mean, instead of ranking teams 1 through 16, right, when we have no idea what we're going to see, right? Okay. Let's go out on a limb. Cocoa 1, Rockledge 2. Cocoa 1, I mean, there's not going to be much debate after that, right? I mean, you could theoretically say Cocoa 1, Rockledge 2. Okay, with all the hype this year, Heritage 3, O'Galley 4. All right, put them in a bag. Titusville 5, Palm Bay 6. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Well, and let me just remind people, the teams that we just talked about in that last tier, these are not rankings. I do not have Holy Trinity last.
Right.
Again, it's just what we don't know about these teams because they lost a lot to graduation. I totally understand Holy Trinity won the district last year. Like I said, they've got young pieces.
They're
We just
gonna
don't
battle MCC this year.
right, and we just don't know what to expect in terms of it's not a question of whether we think they'll be good or not. It's just a question of in the game of football, there's so many good teams. How do you turn the ball to your favor? And sometimes in those lucky bounces. So, like I said, these are good young teams.
Where
that I
are
like.
they in the process is what this is about.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And like I said, I think that I think Holy Trinity is going to be fun. I think that rivalry game between MCC and Holy Trinity is going to be a heck of a ball game. So, because I love my buddy Richie, giving me flack already. But again, that's the thing about these tiers. These are not knocks. These are not rankings.
Right.
Again, there's just some teams you have questions about, and we're going to learn more when we talk to Coach Hurley Brown this week.
If you lose 8 players off your team from last year and 6 of them were starters and you didn't get 8 players back in, or you lose 22 seniors and you can't replace them, well, is it fair to put the same expectation on them? You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. And like I said, that's the fun part with doing tiers as opposed to rankings. Because like I said, these teams are at different places. Because like I said, it's going to be fun. And like I said, I'm excited. I want to see Vieira. I want to see Holy Trinity. I want to see Astronaut. I want to see what Coach Logan Halleck has. Because like I said, when I was reading his bio coming from Appalachian State State's a pretty good football program.
Yeah,
you may not know it because they're in the Sun Belt right now.
Right.
But they're a pretty good football program.
Our 2023 high school football coverage continues Tuesday night right here on Brevard Sports Network with the second of 3 coaches shows. Ryan Schneider, Hurley Brown, Ben Waldrop, Mitchell Brown, Michael Benson, Cliff Nichols, Shane Staples, and Tyler Murray. I think will still be coming. So we'll see coming up on Tuesday night live from Walk-Ons. And once again, from a local perspective, congratulations to Christian LaCorey for making the 2024 U.S. Junior National Bowling Team. So congratulations to him. So NFL training camps get underway, staying with football. NFL training camps get underway this week. I see you got the Bucs shirt on. And, I think, and again, the thing is we can sit here because we didn't have anything else to talk about during the season. Me, Caleb, and Jackson all gave our predictions, right? Like I picked the Dolphins to go 9-8, the Jags 13-4, and the Bucs to go 4-13. But you can look at those predictions, and that's the same as high school rankings, right? I mean, once you get into camp, you can have injuries, you can have this, you can have that, things can come. And who knows what's going to happen, right? But what we do know for certain is that all of the 3 Florida teams, for the first time last year, made the playoffs since Jesus was an infant. And, it was nice to see that.
I think 99 was the last year.
When it was, yes.
Yeah.
So not quite that long ago, right? I mean, we didn't have
But it does feel like that long ago.
Well,
I miss
traveled through
1999.
Bethlehem to see them do that. But anyway, these 3 teams all kick off camp in earnest this week here. And so why don't we start with the team that is nearest and dearest to your heart. And I just want to show that in honor of you this year, Knock.
Yay.
Yeah, well, yeah. I went and I got the creamsicle Bucks helmet.
I love
it. I just think that adds a nice touch. And I got the Fighting Dolphin.
That's a better Dolphin. The Dolphins need to go back to that
Dolphin
look.
Better. The Jags, I don't even know what they're. I don't even think
I'll
they
tell
have.
you that
Chester Cheeto is what somebody called it.
Before we dive into the Bucs, though, real quick, because this actually was the last 2 weeks in the NFL has been throwback week.
It has.
Because the Bucs started with the creamsicles. I thought the Seahawks
were bad. I loved them.
Those are awesome. I love the Seahawks. The Oilers the Titans released the Oilers yesterday. I thought those were great. The
Colts
Vikings
were terrible.
The Colts were terrible. Again, who's letting these decisions happen at Nike? Who at Nike, like between Madden and Nike, I don't know who's in charge of the NFL, but they're complete idiots.
Well, I can imagine Jim Irsay probably had a couple of drinks and picked those.
He must have.
I did not care for those at all. I don't know. What are they
The only redeeming quality was the blue.
Right.
I did like that blue on the jersey. But the black helmet, no.
What are they throwing back to? I mean, nothing.
Here's the thing. There was a trend in the NFL to go to the black uniforms, and it was a cool look. The Eagles did it. Your Ravens. Well, you guys are always in black anyway. But I just don't. The Colts don't have it in their color scheme. It makes no sense. But I mean, outside of that, going back to the throwbacks, I know Miami does their throwbacks. I think it's just gonna. I think it's great that we're starting to see these come back more. I think they're better.
Now, before we get to these training camp previews, it hasn't come up on the screen, and you can't see it, and I didn't send this graphic to you prior to, because I was curious as to whom you would say what the answer would be. Now, FanDuel recently put out 2 graphics that I stole. Quite honestly, I just stole it. I'm going to put them on tonight. The AFC standings and the NFC standings for the past 10 seasons. Whom in the NFL do you think is the best team in the league in the last 10 years?
It's got to be the Chiefs.
I'm sorry, I said NFL. The NFC. The NFC.
Oh, the NFC? Ooh. I'd almost have to say Packers or Seahawks.
It's the Seahawks. Dang, nice job, Knock. It's, believe it or not, your top 5 best records in the NFC in the past 5 years belong to Seattle, Green Bay, and New Orleans, and the Dallas Cowboys. In the AFC, real quick, we'll take a look at that. In the past 10 years, your top 5 teams are the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Ravens, and this one shocked me, the Bills. The Bills being 5th. I know they've had a good 4-year stretch here, but before that, they were terrible.
No, they were terrible before Josh Allen. But that's what I mean. Look at the Bucs, though. I mean, they were about mid-pack. But if you would have looked at it before 2020, the Bucs were one of the worst teams in the last decade in terms of losing. I mean, I think we had like 3 seasons that we were actually like 5 wins or better. So, I mean, like I said, the funny thing is the Jags doesn't shock me, but I will say this: the Dolphins one does shock me a little bit.
Yeah,
considering how high they are up in the last 10 years.
So the Bucs rookies report tomorrow, I believe.
Yep, tomorrow.
And the veterans report on Tuesday. You get.
I'm excited, man.
I know you are. Cansey, Mock, all your draft picks. Your first round draft pick, number 19, defensive tackle overall. Kalijah Cansey will be in. And let's, of course, you added Baker Mayfield, Chase Edmonds. You get a guard, Matt Feller, Greg Gaines, Ryan Neal. You get a couple of kickers. That's going to be a camp battle. Rodrigo Blankenship, Chase McLaughlin. And I know, listen, if kicker wasn't a battle in this camp after what happened last year, shame on Todd Bowles. But obviously, I think we both agree that one of the biggest storylines coming into camp is I think Todd Bowles enters on the hot seat. And who's going to be his quarterback, not?
I mean, everybody seems to think, and I can't say that they're wrong, but I think the promotions that we've seen from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
So I am led to believe, unless Kyle Trask has an amazing camp, I think Baker Mayfield's going to be the quarterback. I will not be shocked if we see Kyle Trask at some point during the season. I think for me, it is the quarterback battle, but I think it's really Dave Canales because he's the new offensive coordinator, and there was a stat put out. You look at the team that used play action the least last year. That was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
Tom Brady's most lethal
play action.
Play action.
Yeah.
We used it 15%. That's what Byron Left, which is an offensive coordinator, did. I think the Bucs, and I think a lot of people, yes, Tom Brady wasn't himself last year, but I think the offensive play calling was just horrendous. I don't think Byron Leftwich got enough of the blame. I know everybody wanted to give it to Tom Brady as well, and I understand Tom Brady gets a lot of the credit versus the blame and all those types of things. But I think Dave Canales bringing in a offense that's a little bit more mobile in terms of play action, using it more. And guess what? Running the football doesn't matter. If your ability to run the football does not influence the numbers in terms of play action.
Canales is a big believer in tight ends, and on the screen right now is a graphic. Last year, he likes to use a lot of 12 personnel, and for those of you at home that are going English, Allen, 12 personnel means there's 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 2 receivers on the field, offensively speaking. Okay, so that's 12 personnel is what that is. But if you look at Canales last year, he used tight ends 29.5% of the time. Compared to the Buccaneers, and this is what shocked me, because if you look at Tom Brady historically throughout his career, tight ends were always his go-to. It's the reason why, you had Randy Moss, in 07 that broke all those records with Brady, but traditionally it's slot for Brady and tight ends. That's what he goes to, and I would often wonder if they had Canales last year. if that would have been, you know what I mean? How good
No,
of a match that would have been. But
yeah.
I think this is a good offense for a Kyle Trask or a Baker Mayfield because I don't think Canales is going to ask much of them down the field.
Well, but I think what you have to remember, though, Tampa Bay's strengths are their receivers, and their receivers can get down the field. So I think Baker Mayfield is going to have to throw the ball downfield. Mike Evans is at best when he's going and streaking down the field. But at the same time, too, I'd love to see some post routes. I'd love to see some stuff towards the deeper middle of the field. And I think Cade Otton is going to have a good year for Tampa Bay. I think O'Keefe can be very valuable as well. More of that traditional tight end where you just kind of see him, he blocks, and then all of a sudden he just splits out 2 yards downfield and then picks up a 6-yard gain. I think with the skill position, I think Tampa Bay is in really, really good spot. The offensive line, though, because my biggest question, especially in camp, is going to be, can Tristan Wirfs be as dominant of a right tackle as a left tackle? Right. Because moving to that left side is going to be big, and he's an Iowa offensive lineman. How many Iowa offensive linemen do we talk about that are great in the NFL?
My biggest concern with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is going to be on the defensive side of the football. Golston, Hicks, Roach, Bunting, Edwards, Neal, Ryan.
Well, hang on. Golston and Hicks are no longer there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All gone.
All gone.
All gone. Okay, so that's who you lose, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, they did a good job. 37, yeah, you lose 37 combined. Yeah, that's a lot of starts there. Defensively, you can still get Vita Vea, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jamal Dean, Carlton Davis. There's a lot to figure out here defensively, and that's where a lot of these camp battles are going to be, Knock.
Well, I think the biggest question mark on that defense, because I love our secondary with Davis and Dean. The question is if any one of those guys gets hurt, it's right to Zion McCollum, who was a fifth-round pick last year and did struggle, so hopefully we'll see big strides from him. I think Neal is a steal in free agency.
I agree.
I think Neal is a steal. But in terms of the front, I agree with you. There's a lot of big expectations out of last year's second-round pick, the first player the Bucs had, in Logan Hall. He's got to make his presence known. I think William Golson does end up back on the roster at some point because you do need another big body, and he provides that. But I think this is a big year for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. He has got to show that he is the pass rusher the Bucs drafted a couple of years ago. He was able to get more quarterback pressures last year, but his sacks just didn't materialize. I think the fact that Vita Vea led the team in sacks is not good.
No, it's not.
It's not good. I think Shaq Barrett, hopefully he can be healthy, but again, coming off, I believe it was an Achilles injury, that is going to be tough. It just comes down to the pass rush. Can we get enough pressure without having to blitz? I will say this. I do wish we would move Devin White to the role that Micah Parsons has right now. Because I think Devin White's a far better pass rusher than he is in coverage.
Kalijah Kancey is going to get a chance to play a lot this year as a rookie.
Good.
He is. I thought he had a good career at Pitt. I like the kid. I think I think he's got a nice burst of speed. It'd be interesting to me to see if you look at the Bucs up front, see if they don't kick him outside a little bit further. I don't know. We'll see because I don't know that he's big enough to be as impactful playing the defensive tackle position in the NFL as he was in college. But we'll see. They know what the hell they're doing over me. But if you look at this roster, you'll get Cody Mauch starting at probably right guard.
My favorite. Well, I was going to say, yeah, probably. It would be probably him and Gedeke on the right side and then Filer on the left side. But I'll tell you what, Cody Mauch's my favorite draft pick the Bucs had this year.
Yeah.
I love when we have gingers on the team. We got a number of gingers, O'Keefe, Ryan Jensen, and Cody Mauch just looks like a guy that's going to just absolutely follow in the footsteps of the Ryan Jensen school of offensive linemen. He was a fun guy to watch at North Dakota State. Had plenty of opportunities to watch him in the FCS, and also too, how do you not love an offensive lineman that's missing his 2 front teeth?
There are currently on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 guys that are going to come into camp with the Bucs this year that since 2020, 2021, and 2022 were all undrafted free agents that are coming back onto this roster. Now, they'll all be battling for jobs. But my point is over the last 3 years, all of these players have at one point or another been on the roster. And so Tampa Bay, with an opportunity here, I mean, if anybody puts the undrafted free agent players list to use, it certainly looks like the Buccaneers do here, Knock.
Yeah, and one guy that I'm really excited about is Devin Tompkins. He
Yeah.
had a tremendous training camp last year. I think he's a guy that can really blossom if he gets the opportunities in the preseason. Russell Gage looked like he's healthy again, so that's going to be a tremendous third wide receiver to have outside. So I think we got to push Godwin back to the outside.
Right.
Gage has got to be on the inside. Mike Evans obviously where he is traditionally, and I think Cade Otton's going to have a great year. But like I said, Devin Tompkins is another name to watch, and I love what he brings to the table.
They were talking about him in that fourth wide receiver spot there, so we'll see. Again, for Tampa Bay, it's rookies tomorrow. Basically, everybody will walk through the doors tomorrow. It's just the way it goes. They got the 11th easiest schedule in 2023 based on their opponents' 2022 win percentage. They play 6 of their final 7 games versus non-playoff teams. They're at Indy, Carolina, at Atlanta, at Green Bay, New Orleans, and then at Carolina. And their preseason schedule kicks off week 1 at home against the Steelers. They'll then travel to the Jets, and then they'll host the Baltimore Ravens in their final preseason game. Which AFC team would you like to move to and preview, the Dolphins or the Jags?
Let's go with the Dolphins. I like to save the best for last, and so I think the Dolphins would be the next logical pick here. And I'll tell you this much, man. I think all questions begin and end with Tua.
Yeah, their rookies are in camp. Their veterans will report on Tuesday. Not a lot of draft picks this year. Cam Smith, Devon, I always screw his last name up. Elijah Higgins and Ryan Hayes. They do get Mike White in as an interesting option should Tua Tagovailoa go down. They also listen. I mean, and they're still not done with free agency. I'm still interested. I still think one of these big backs are going to end up there. I still think you're going to see maybe Cook. I still think you're going to see one of these big-time running backs end up in Miami. But I'm going to say, well, let me finish going through their schedule, news and notes. They have the second toughest strength of schedule based on win percentage last year. They were one of 4 teams to open with back-to-back road games against the Chargers and the Patriots, and they're the only team to play 4 of their final 5 games at home. But you're right. The obvious subplot to all of this is Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, it's whether or not he can stay healthy. They've made upgrades on the offensive line, but how quickly can that offensive line gel? Obviously, Terran Armstead going to be big at the left side to try and help protect him. But again, I'm just curious. At what time does Tua go down? How much time does he miss? All of those types of things. So I just really kind of wonder whether or not it's going to be Tua that can make it through a season. If he can, I think the Dolphins are a good football team. But also, too, the fact that they have the second toughest schedule and how loaded the AFC is, I think it's just going to be really, really tough this year for the Dolphins. And I hope that the pressures don't put Mike McDaniels in the crosshairs of his job, just because I think you got to look at sometimes the situation. And Mike McDaniels has done a tremendous job. If they don't quite meet expectations, I think that next year they'd probably be in a better spot.
What do you think of Mike McDaniels? I like the guy.
I like the
really
coach.
like this guy.
He's a little unorthodox. He's not quite your average NFL head coach giving you answers, but he's entertaining.
No, that's for sure. I think when you look at this team, if this offense is going to flow more consistently, they're going to obviously have to protect Tua, and the Dolphins are going to have to make strides up front. They got a new offensive line coach in Butch Barry. They got some good blockers, Terran Armstead, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt. But this is a unit that's going to have to play together this year. But for them, the key figure might be former first-rounder Austin Jackson. If he can bounce back from a lost season, he missed all but 2 games due to injury, that could be a huge difference for this offensive line. So keep your eye on that. Will this defense be ready to take another step? That's a big key that you're going to have to keep your eyes on. The Dolphins brought back most of their defensive contributors from last season. They got 2 newcomers in there, and they bring in Vic Fangio. I like Vic Fangio. I've always liked Vic Fangio. He's had an outstanding career. He's earned a reputation for turning defenses around and good defenses into great defenses. So we'll see. They get Jalen Ramsey. 8th-year pro. He's still in his prime. He's not even 29 till October. I think you're right. I think that this is, and a lot of people are going to say, well, you're nuts. but I really believe that if Tua Tagovailoa can stay healthy, and what I mean by healthy is this: if Tua can play in 13 of 17 games this year,
Yeah.
I'll take 13 of 17 games this year.
Yeah, I think that Tua can. I think the Dolphins just are that good. I think defensively, I think Vic Fangio is going to have him ready by midseason to really be a lockdown defense. And like I said, you got great corners for Miami. You got the pass rush. That's going to be something they do need to add to a little bit. But I mean, it's all about the quarterback, and that's what drives this league. And that schedule. And that's the other thing that makes me hesitant. Second toughest schedule in the NFL. That doesn't exactly bode well for you. And the fact that the Dolphins do have the questions, or at least the question that they do have. If they had an established quarterback, all right, it's going to be tough, but you expect that they might win a few more than they lose.
On the screen right now is the quarterbacks they'll face this year. They'll face Herbert week 1, Wilson week 3, Allen week 5, Hurts week 7, Mahomes 9, Rodgers 12, Rodgers 15, Prescott week 16, Lamar 17, Allen 18, and then Joe Burrow's in there somewhere. I left him off there by accident. But you got Joe Burrow in there. Listen, I just think this is a team that if they can win 10 football games, I think they can be a wild card. I think it's going to take 10 in the AFC.
Oh, it is.
This is good. This could be one of the best football teams in a long time not to make the playoffs.
I was about to say, I almost think that it might be 11. It almost might be 11 that almost guarantees you a wild card spot. 10 probably puts you on the fringe of whether or not you make it or don't. But again, like you talked about, the Dolphins have a good roster. They've been assembled. It's just the quarterback position. You still have Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. You know they're going to launch the ball deep. I am curious what they're going to do tight end-wise because I think Gesicki's gone. But at the same time, I mean, they still have those two guys, and those are going to be huge going forward.
Some of their key off-season losses, they lose Bridgewater, Sherfield. You're right, Gesicki's gone. They also lose tight end Hunter Long, Greg Little, Trey Flowers, Melvin Ingram, John Jenkins, Landon Roberts, Byron Jones, Eric Rowe, and Thomas Morstead, some of the guys they lost this year. But I just think this is a very good football team. And I think, again, based on their schedule, based on the health of their quarterback, could be the best team we've seen in a long time not make the playoffs if things don't go their way in some of those games that I just put on the screen. Week 1, they host Atlanta, Friday, August the 11th, preseason. Then they go to Houston and then Jacksonville for weeks 2 and 3 of their preseason. So we'll see in terms of, I'm sure we'll see some camp battles along that offensive line. But, the team that should be the best of the 3 in the Sunshine State this year, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And look, Knock, the Jags are going all out, man. They on the screen right now is their new training facility. Trevor Lawrence walked into yesterday, Miller Electric Center. This thing, to borrow right from the name of the place, is electric. This thing is absolutely phenomenal, state-of-the-art, everything for these players. Of course, the Jaguars are in their final season at this stadium until they move out for 2 years and renovate this thing into something phenomenal. I just really like the direction that this franchise is finally going. I think when you look at how they finished last year, I think Trevor Lawrence is ready to be an MVP candidate this year. I just think there are a lot of things that are right for this team. I don't see any reason why this team, the rookies, I think, reported yesterday. The veterans will report on Tuesday. But again, you saw Trevor Lawrence walk in the door the same day that the rookies did. That is an absolutely gorgeous facility there. But I really like, there are a lot of things I like about this team. But I will say this. No team that I think can be as good as the Jaguars can be this year has as porous of an offensive line as I think the Jags have. I don't understand what's going on there.
Well, you think about this. I mean, I believe it was Antoine Harrison they drafted in the first round.
Right.
So he replaces Juwan Taylor at right tackle. So he's got incredible length, incredible athleticism. So, again, it's a first-round pick offensive lineman. It is a right tackle spot, so he's not facing the most elite pass rushers.
That's where he's going to go, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then Cam Robinson's missing 4 games.
Right.
So, luckily, that suspension's not longer. But he's missing 4 games, so you're missing the first 4. But outside of that, I mean, they get some guys back healthy. I think the interior's at least a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big question is whether or not that offensive line can take the next step. Obviously, they lost Coco alum Jawan Taylor. He definitely made out with that contract from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, he did.
But I agree with you. I think the biggest question is really on both lines.
Yeah.
Because the Jaguars, even with Trayvon Walker last year, the sack numbers weren't there.
They need a pass rush. You're
right. They do. And Josh Allen did a nice job, but they still need more considering what they've invested in. So I think for Jacksonville, it's really the questions along both lines. If both don't develop as nicely as they want, because the Jags don't feel like their offensive line is as much an issue as you and I feel like it is.
Here's the interesting statistic about that defensive line. Do you know they finished last year second in the National Football League in quarterback pressures? They had 209, but they ended up tied for 25th in total sacks. That's crazy. They're just not getting home.
No.
Josh, like you said, Josh Allen generated a lot of heat on opposing quarterbacks. He ranked fourth among edge rushers and pressures. He had 64, but he just couldn't get those plays into sacks with 7, and that's per next-gen stats. But he's got to get home this year. And then Trayvon Walker, second season, I think we'll see him develop a little bit more. I thought he had a pretty good year. I was critical of this pick as early as the Jags made it. I didn't like it, but you know what? I think all's well that ends well for Jacksonville. But I think if that offensive line can gel, knock, and I think they'll figure it out. But to me, Trevor Lawrence and I just don't see Doug Peterson not pushing this team through to the next step. I think the Jaguars. People talk about the Bengals, the Ravens, as issues for Kansas City this year. But to me, the biggest matchup issue for Kansas City is Jacksonville. And you know what, Knock? We saw that in the playoffs.
We did. And if Jacksonville just doesn't make some of the mistakes they made in that game, who knows how that thing goes. But Jacksonville wasn't scared of them. And I think the biggest question I had for Jacksonville, a couple of months ago was whether or not the Jags would let the success they had go to their head, and then all of a sudden you just kind of be lackadaisical in terms of coming into this season just automatically because the AFC South isn't very good.
Yeah.
The offensive line, I think, will be answered because the Titans still have one of the best defensive lines in football. So if Jacksonville can hold up against Tennessee and keep Trevor Lawrence upright, I think that answers our question. And at the same time, having the 10th easiest schedule, that's also a big key as well. I don't think Jacksonville's going to take a step back. I think they're a lock for the playoffs.
And here's the other thing. I still think that having a guy that can carry the football and catch it out of the backfield matters in this league. Yes. I do. I'm a guy that believes you got to have a good running back. Now, Travis Etienne, a lot of people forget he didn't play in his rookie year because he had the Les Frank injury, right?
Yeah.
So this is really going to be his second season. This cat rushed for 1,125. He had a great year last year, and I think he's going to be even more impactful this year. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, who we haven't talked about that the Jags are getting back this year? Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Adding to that wide receiver core.
Yeah, that's huge. He looked great in mini camps.
Yes, and the fact that they're going to – Christian Kirk signing looks at least worth it so far. Zay Jones emerged. They just gave a big contract to Evan Ingram, who was very productive. Weapons abound for Trevor Lawrence. So, like I said, it's just about the offensive and defensive lines. And you showed the highlight earlier. They got pressure on Dak Prescott on that play, which created a turnover.
Right.
So, again, getting pressure is the second best thing to getting a sack. But, like I said, if they can create more and get home more, I think Jacksonville is going to be a really, really good team. And like you said, they could be that dark horse to challenge the Chiefs.
Laugh if you want, but I believe the team with the best chance to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs this year are the Jacksonville Jaguars. We saw Doug Peterson do it in Philadelphia that quickly.
True.
Okay, he went to the Super Bowl. Look who he went to the Super Bowl with as his quarterback that year for the Eagles, and they beat the Patriots. So I think it's entirely possible that the Jacksonville – yes, I believe it's possible the Jacksonville Jaguars could be a Super Bowl contending team.
Listen, it's a tough AFC. There's no question about that. But they got the quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is looking like that guy you mentioned, a dark horse MVP candidate. Like I said, I like the Jags a lot. I like the Jags more than the Dolphins. Like I said, if I had to pick a team out of the three to make a deep playoff run, it's that helmet you're holding.
It'd be them, that's for sure. And even if you got 17 out of Tua, with that game. I see 9-11 wins there. Let me see who the quarterback's going to be for the Bucs. I don't know what the hell to think of them until I know who the quarterback's going to be. For your sake, Knock, I just hope it's a promising year.
I'm telling you right now, if I could, and if sports betting, I think is technically legal in Florida at the moment.
Sort of.
Yeah, the law is it's weird.
Right.
I would though, honestly, if I just had $100 to burn, I'd put $100 on the Bucs to win the division.
Over under 9 games.
Well, I think Vegas has them at 6.5.
Okay.
Vegas has them at 6.5 right now. I'm taking the over on 6.5.
Okay.
So, because I think they're playing the Saints. I don't think the Saints are nearly as good as everybody likes to think. The Falcons, everybody loves because of Bijan Robinson, but again, they still have the same problem. They don't have anybody to throw to. I don't think Drake London's nearly as good as they like. Bijan Robinson, you're going to lean on a rookie bell cow? Yeah, Tampa Bay's seen that before. We tried that with Cadillac Williams. He unfortunately didn't have the career he could have had because they used him so much, and I think Atlanta's going to do that too.
What'd you think of this week? Aaron Rodgers kind of hinted at maybe a second year with the Jets. Said he didn't really understand what the purpose of playing just 1 year would be. And, of course, the hard knocks thing has really become an issue. The Jets simply don't want any parts of it. They don't want to be on it. They're going to refuse to cooperate on the extra stuff. They're only going to do what's necessary. This will probably be one of the most watched hard knocks. But I'll tell you this, the series has gotten a little like that quarterback thing that you were,
Yeah.
I've watched the entire thing on Netflix. Love that. Think it's a great series. What episode are you on?
I'm on 4.
Okay, so you were allowed to watch up to 4. All right.
Excellent point. I tried watching an episode before I came in today. That didn't quite happen. I got overruled. But I will say, though, I think in certain aspects, because it's Peyton Manning leading that Omaha production for quarterbacks,
Yeah.
I think the players are more willing. I think because some people have gotten – because it becomes such a talking point with Hard Knocks.
Right.
And at the same time, too, Hard Knocks, we see a team do it halfway through the season. How much did that burn the Arizona Cardinals last year?
It did. It burned him a lot because it made their coach look like the idiot he turned out to be. Cliff
Kingsbury.
Yeah, Kingsbury.
And Kyler Murray hasn't done anything for his image.
No, it has not. And, and I say kudos to the Jets on this. And I know people have that sick side of them that want to watch this type of stuff. But I don't like to see a grown man be brought into an office and cut. I don't like watching that. It's an uncomfortable thing to watch. I've been cut before. I know how it feels. It's not a good feeling. And to have a camera on you while it's happening, I get it. Do I watch it? Of course I watch it. We all watch it.
But I think the thing that I go back to, and I'm sure you might remember this, the first version of Hard Knocks that we saw, which was your Ravens after they won the Super Bowl. That was a good one. But if you remember, it was always grab your playbook. That's how you knew you were getting cut.
And that's all you need to do.
That's all you need. But I don't know if they do that anymore because the playbook's
they go into the office. Remember there was a guy a couple of years ago or something that got – I can't remember what the situation was, but he got cut and – he didn't know he got cut. He wanted to open a. It was crazy. He wanted to, or didn't know he was on camera getting cut. Wanted a loss. Just nuts. But it'll be interesting to see how much they get, Hard Knocks style. And the interesting part about this is your Bucs will be on Hard Knocks.
Oh, I know.
A lot because they are going to be going. You know how these teams do these in camps like
joint practices,
scrimmages, dual practices. The Bucs and the Jets are doing that not once, not twice, but 3 times coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So you'll see a lot of your Bucs on that Hard Knock.
My HBO subscription
coming up next week, believe it or not. Next weekend, I believe, is the Hall of Fame game, I think. And so what we will do here on Brevard Sports Network is we will begin. We're about 6 weeks out. There are, 8 divisions in football. We will begin to preview. And next week we will start with the AFC East and just roll. We'll go AFC East, NFC East next week, and then the week after we'll go NFC South, AFC South, and that's how we'll do it until we're done. But we'll give a good preview. And I got some great guests coming on as well. Interviews I'm recording coming up. For example, got Phil Steele interview coming up next week, and you'll hear from Phil. But great segue. Want to thank Archaic Design Inc. Kitchen and Bath, where you can go down and get everything, including the kitchen sink, no doubt. Archaic Design, Christy and Russ just do a fantastic job, and I couldn't be more grateful to them for allowing Bsn'S Mouthin Sports Talk here on Sunday nights. Now, we only got about 6 episodes left this season of BSN's Mouthin Off Sports Talk before we transition back to Sunday nights and the Archaic Designs NFL and college football recap show. You'll remember last year we did that throughout the course of the season on about 7 o'clock on Sunday nights leading up to the Sunday night game where we recapped the best in college football and then that day in the NFL for you, give you a little Brevard County perspective on that. So we go from the National Football League knock to the Big 12, and if we're talking Big 12 football this year, knock, that means we are talking one of Central Florida's own, and that would be the UCF Knights and Gus Malzahn and John Rice Plumlee. This was an interesting conference last year to me because normally you're looking at Texas or not Texas, I'm sorry, because Texas has been terrible, but you're looking at Oklahoma, usually but last year knocked a classic Big 12 championship game between Kansas State and TCU, went to overtime. TCU loses that game as an unbeaten. Everyone and their mom believes that they're knocked themselves out of the college football playoff picture with that loss, but that wasn't the case. Alabama would go on to prove they should have not have been in there anyway. But your thoughts on the Big 12, and then we'll kind of everybody else but UCF.
I think for me, it's just, again, you talk about what TCU did with head coach Sonny Dykes his first year at TCU, what he was able to accomplish. Obviously, they would have loved to have had a better showing in the national championship game, is what it is. K-State with Chris Kleinman. Chris Kleinman won a couple national championships with North Dakota State,
yep.
and that was the question. Could he turn around K-State after Bill Snyder? And he has done that because he put K-State in the Big 12 championship. They have been a fun team. Now, obviously, they lose Deuce, who's now with the Dallas Cowboys, but I think K-State's going to be a fun team. I think they can become a power that is going to be really, really good going forward in the Big 12. And then, I mean, there's just some fun teams. And I know Texas and Oklahoma are going to grab the headlines because that's usually what the Big 12
does. Their
final year. I mean, Steve Sarkisian should have the Longhorns, but again, can they stay healthy? The problem with the Longhorns last year is their quarterbacks kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
But I love this conference. This is a fun conference. You still got West Virginia.
They don't play any defense. Go ahead.
Yeah, they don't. It's true. They don't play any defense, but they do have some high-scoring battles, which is fun. Kansas has improved. I mean, obviously adding Cincinnati and Houston, that's going to be really interesting. West Virginia really appreciates that because now they don't have to travel nearly as far. So I think this is just, honestly, I know everybody is going to be talking about the SEC. But the Big 12 is fun.
For me this year, you see a lot of predictions. Who does Phil have winning the S? He's
got Texas winning.
I can't listen. Last year, what was last year? The quarterback situation. They should. That game against Alabama. I don't know. We'll see. Quinn Ewers held off a challenge for the starting job in the spring. He's going to be throwing to one of the nation's best receiving corps. I guess I like Texas here. They got, of course, they lose linebacker DeMarvion over Sean, but they get 6 starters back. They should remain for defensive purposes. If anybody has a good defense, it's Texas. I mean, they got 6 starters returning. As for Oklahoma, good old Brett Venables, man, he thought he was just going to go light it up in year 1, but that didn't happen. Oklahoma's first losing season since 1998, the last time. The following years when all 3 teams from Tampa made it in the playoffs in the NFL. But look, they were 0-5 in one-score games last season. So you get a new coach, you get a new system last year. Maybe if that goes, maybe this year they go 5-0 in those one-score games, and that's the difference. They get some improvement on a defense last year that really could not stop the run. Teams ran for nearly 6 yards a carry against them. But, Kansas State, they lose, like you said, they lose Deuce Vaughn. To me, I like Texas. I guess I'll go with Texas to win this. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think that UCF, I think UCF I've seen picked anywhere from 7th to 9th in this conference. I think that's underestimating what Gus Malzahn and John Rice Plumlee's going to do this year I don't think they're going to win this conference. I don't think they're going to finish second in this conference. But, it wouldn't shock me, Knock, if they could, you look at Max Dugan last year, right? You watch John Rice Plumlee play. Another year, better. The thing that disappointed me last year a little bit about Rice Plumlee is I thought we'd see more touchdowns in the air. I know he's the fastest quarterback in college football, but I thought we'd see more touchdowns in the air. Wouldn't surprise me to see UCF somewhere around 4th or 5th in this conference. How do you see UCF this year?
Well, see, that's my question is whether or not UCF is going to be able to take a step up in competition. And one, they do need to play some defense because they are dealing with more speed. Again, Oklahoma State isn't going anywhere. That's going to be a high-powered offense. K-State as well. TCU, we mentioned them already. But I think for me, it's just like Gus Malzahn's got to make a big impact here with UCF. Cincinnati, they lost their head coach to Wisconsin. Houston, we'll see what they do. But, I'll be honest. The 3 teams that the Big 12's adding lost a little steam coming in to add to the conference. And I think Gus Malzahn, if he doesn't have an impressive showing within the Big 12, I think could find himself on the hot seat given the fact that we just haven't seen.
You think so?
I think so. I think he will. You tell me. Considering what Gus Malzahn's done with UCF versus his predecessors, would you say that you think he's done? Do you feel like the arrow's trending upward for the Knights?
Well, no, I don't know. We'll see. I think that's a conversation that we could probably have a little bit better after this season. But for me, listen, John Rice, I think to play in this conference, Knock, you have to throw the football.
Agreed.
But I think the thing that's UCF's strength offensively is running the football. They lose their defensive coordinator. John Rice Plumlee, he's going to have to throw the football. He's going to have to. He's got a bunch of talented veteran running backs. In order for UCF to succeed this year, they're going to have to dominate tempo and time. They're going to have to. And the only way to do that is to run the ball. So, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. They were 5-0 last year when they averaged 5.5 yards a carry. They were 7-0, including wins over Tulane and Cincinnati when running the ball for more than 200 yards. On the flip side, Knock, they were 0-4 when they didn't get to 160 yards rushing last year. They lose offensive tackle. They get offensive tackle Marcellus Marshall in from Kent State, and they lose their center to Miami. Nobody plays the transfer portal as hard as Gus Malzahn does. But for me, this year, all centers around the health of John Rice Plumlee. Can he stay healthy? Making all these plays. And when you look at UCF's schedule, let's pull up UCF's schedule.
Well, I was going to say I'm looking at it right now because I got.
All right, who do they got week 1?
Week 1 is Kent State on a Thursday night. Then they're at Boise State.
That's a win. The Boise State game is a loss. They're at Boise. Boise would be a good football team.
They're a team that's predicted to be one of the better teams in the Mountain West. Could win it.
So that's 1-1.
FCS Villanova.
That's 2-1.
And they're at Kansas State to open up conference play. That's a tough
2-2.
But I will say this though, I may have to change a little bit of tune on UCF. Looking at their schedule, you're seeing at Kansas State. Kansas State's going to be tough. Baylor, Kansas, I think are winnable games. At Oklahoma, that's going to be a tough one, but we don't know how good Oklahoma will be or not be. And then you look at West Virginia, at Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Houston. They avoid TCU, Texas. They avoid some of the big boys in the Big 12 that are looked at to be good this year. So their 2 toughest games in conference play is Oklahoma and K-State. So those would be good key tests, obviously, for the Knights. But, I could see a scenario where if Plumlee's healthy for this season, that UCF only has 2 conference losses.
They move up Addison Williams to defensive coordinator. He was their secondaries coach or cornerbacks coach last year. On the defensive side of the football, which is where I think it's really going to matter for this team, they got a good defensive line. They got Tremont Morris Bash, Lee Hunter, Ricky Barber up front. They're going to play 3-down linemen. They got Sean Patterson in the Buck, Jason Johnson, Ryan Davis, and Brandon Adams in that 3-4. Ryan Davis and Brandon Adams is the left cornerback. is a left cornerback, not a linebacker. They got Quadric Ballard, Jairee Wilson, DeCorian Patterson, and Nikolai Martinez as a nickelback in that secondary. To me, that's the key because in the Big 12, it's all about scoring. I think there are some questions in the back of that UCF secondary. They have just one returning linebacker in Jason Johnson. He led the team last year, albeit with 126 tackles. I like the front, but the back seven is a big question for me. I think that is the Achilles heel for this football team this year is the defense. I mean, you're watching a game last year against South Florida in which they gave up 40 points.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they catch a break, and here's the answer to your Malzahn question. If it sounds like I'm stumbling over my words, I think UCF gets an expected period of adjustment. And I think because of that, Gus Malzahn catches a break and isn't on any type of a hot seat. So I think for UCF this year, it would be sweet if they only lost 2 games in conference, but you're talking about a team last year that, they would win a game and you go, wow, I didn't think they'd win that game, and then they would lose a game and you go, how in the hell did they lose that football game? I mean,
true.
Your video's stuck on the end.
Stuck on what?
You're good.
What?
Your video was stuck, and you hadn't transitioned on the stream over to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. But I thought you meant it was frozen stuck. No, right. Yeah, sometimes I forget to put it back. As long as they can hear us, though, right? Just like Sports Talk Radio. That's Caleb. Thanks, buddy. But I don't know. Read that schedule again.
I was going to say, it's pretty much you got at Boise State in week 2. I know Kent State's to open. You got FCS Villanova afterwards. They open up at conference play at Kansas State. I know they got Baylor, Kansas. Let me see, who else am I trying to think of at the moment? I know they got Oklahoma. And let me see here. I think I almost got there. Yeah, there we go. They got Oklahoma, West Virginia, at Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, at Texas Tech, and Houston. So that's the schedule. Yeah, K-State, Baylor, at Kansas, bye week, and then Oklahoma.
All right. So 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. Think they beat Baylor?
I think they got a shot. I mean, we'll see what
All
Baylor
right,
does.
It's at home. We'll give it to them.
Yeah,
3-2,
I like it there.
3-3, 3-4.
You got them losing to West Virginia?
No, I'm at Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
3-4, 4-4. They're not going to beat Cincinnati at Cincinnati. 4-5. They're not winning at Oklahoma State. 4-6.
Well, that one's in Orlando, though.
Yes, okay. They still ain't winning. 4-6. They're not going to win in Lubbock. 4-7. 5-7. 5-7 is where I'll put them this year.
5-7.
Yeah,
okay,
looking
fair
at
enough.
it, I know I was big on them early, but that's a big boy schedule in the year one, and
well, we'll see. I mean, you got to look at some of these teams within the Big 12, and it's not like all of them are totally strong. I mean, West Virginia and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's picked last by Phil.
Here's a good way to look at this, okay? Here's a good way to look at this. Last year's schedule, right? Okay. So they crush South Carolina State 56-10. Week 2, they get beat by Louisville 20-14. They beat Florida Atlantic. They beat Georgia Tech. Okay. They beat SMU. They put 70 on Temple. They get beat, and here's what I'm talking about. They lose to East Carolina. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, UCF. They beat Cincinnati at home. I think Cincinnati gets revenge on them this year. They beat Memphis, beat Tulane, and then here's where they laid eggs. Like, they lose to Navy. They had no business losing to Navy last year. They allow South Florida puts 39 on them. And then Tulane comes back and thumps them in the championship. What's that championship game? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Championship game. So, and then Duke absolutely kicks their ass in the Military Bowl. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. So 12 games, at best 6-6, at worst 5-7.
Fair enough. Like I said, I think it's going to be a tough first year, but their schedule lines up favorably for them because they're not going to see Texas and Oklahoma.
And we'll have better, more thorough previews coming up right before the season starts because we're going to have, like I said, I'm going to talk to Phil Steele about UCF. I'm going to talk to Phil about Florida, Florida State, all of them. So far we have previewed UCF. We've previewed all 4 of these teams, right?
Yeah, Miami, Florida State, Florida, yeah.
So we've done Miami, the Gators, Florida State, and UCF. All right, Knock, if we had to put these teams up here and next week, do I have it right? Is Florida State the best of the 4?
Yes.
Are the Gators second?
Yes.
Miami third?
No. I'd put
All right,
UCF
so
ahead
we'll
of Miami.
switch Miami and UCF. And I think I got this right.
I disagree with that, but I'll let you leave it for now. Because, like I said, everybody else thinks the Bucs are only going to win 4 games. So why not?
I remember when we had Knock come in, Caleb, a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago as like a guest host, right? And he was sitting over there, and he said, and he was genuinely surprised when we said that the Bucs would win. And he looked at us and he goes, "Do you really think so?"
That was an idea to convince me Baker Mayfield is a good option.
Yeah.
Hey, I liked Kyle Trask more than I like Baker Mayfield, but at this point, the way the Bucs are promoting Baker Mayfield, I really believe that they think he's going to be the starter over Kyle Trask. So, like I said, we'll see. I think the roster for Tampa Bay is better than 4 wins, but the quarterback play is a very important factor.
Caleb, what were Caleb's predictions? Caleb had the Dolphins at 9-8, the Jags at 11-6, and the Bucs at 5-12. And Jackson had what did Jackson have? Jackson had the Dolphins at 10-7, the Jags at 11-6, and the Bucs at 5-12. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll get a little closer to it. And see, you got season tickets again this year?
My dad does. He's got season
Okay.
tickets, and he'll be. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun looking at some of those games. That throwback game is a real interesting one. Obviously against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Seeing those. You know what's cool is I was actually seeing. I don't know who put it up, but they had the 1975 or 1979 divisional round game between Tampa and Philly in Tampa.
Yeah.
At the old Sombrero.
Yep.
I don't know if I never sat in the old Sombrero. I like Raymond James Stadium. But the look of the old Sombrero, the way they had that old college stadium look, it was kind of cool.
It was a wild time, man. Wild times back then. And I told you last week my favorite memory of them. They didn't win the game, but I loved the 79 Bucks and Doug Williams against the Rams. And still think they had a better chance to beat the Steelers that year than did the Rams in that Super Bowl. But anyway, before we let's transition to baseball. So, Knock, in case, let me just go back to the solo shot here on this. Okay, so we got these batting helmets, like these replica batting helmets here, right? So I got the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oriole one. And prior to the start of the weekend, Knock, I obviously had them side by side, right? Because, that's fair. But not now.
No.
As the Orioles, Knock, have taken 3 out of 4 from Tampa Bay. This is the segment better known as This Week in Baseball on here. And coming up on your screen is going to be the This Week in Baseball video if I downloaded it. If I didn't, then I'll just read you. Nope, of course I did. Good boy, Alan. Your standings will all be flashing on the screens as well as your Major League Baseball leaders. Knock, the O's with 3 out of 4 from Tampa Bay. And I got to be honest with you, Knock, watching the Rays play this weekend, I think they're in some kind of trouble. I don't know that this is going to turn around for them. The Blue Jays are in third, 6.5 back over in the Central. It's the Twins up by 3 over the Guardians in the West. It's the Rangers by 3 over the Astros in the National League. It is the Braves 11.5 up on the Marlins and the Phillies. And the Miami Marlins, Knock, have gone to hell in a handbasket. I don't know what has happened to them. They'll take on the Rays, and that could be what ails a struggling baseball team in Tampa. Could be a visit by Miami, and that's exactly what they're going to get. In the Central, Knock, it's the Brewers, a half game over the Reds, 55-45. The Dodgers, who took through 2 out of 3 from the Orioles at Camden Yards, 57-41, and lead the West by 4 games. And you see the leaders up on the screen, Knock, and who are, as you watch this week, Knock, what are some things, if anything, at all stood out to you this week in baseball?
Well, I'd have to say we have to talk about your Orioles taking 3 out of 4 from the Rays, and the fact that there's people that are starting to hit the panic button with the Rays. And I think, I'm not saying that they need to hit the panic button, but the offense has been anemic. The injuries have mounted up on the pitching staff. We talked about this, and I said this a couple of weeks ago. We were waiting for the lull that the Rays needed to have in order to really kind of bounce back and I think be a dominant team. I don't ever like to see a team go wire to wire top in baseball because that's just so hard to do and it takes so much out. So I think that the Rays are in trouble right now. I think I'm very curious because we've seen the Rays be linked to Shohei Ohtani. How much would they be willing to give up in their farm for Shohei Ohtani to come to Tampa Bay? And I don't know if he'd stay after this season. But I think for the Rays, this is injuries, and this is the dog days of summer. Rather have this now than have this in September. But they are in trouble. We'll see if they can bounce out of it. Baltimore's playing tremendous baseball. I know you're just absolutely thrilled about that.
I'm tickled.
You're tickled. And I think also, too, I think that the American League is showing that it's better. Again, the Braves look at the top team. There's nobody in the National League that I think of that scares me, or in terms of I think threatens the Braves. I don't think the Dodgers could, but I don't know if they will. Nobody out of the Central is going to. I mean, I'm happy the Brewers are just playing good baseball at this point.
I saw a thing on MLB.com talking about trades for Shohei Ohtani, and it wouldn't surprise me either, Knock, if the Rays were in on Ohtani. And here's what I mean. They were in on the Juan Soto last year. I didn't know until after that deal was completed just how close Tampa Bay came to renting Juan Soto last year. And the thing that I really like about what Tampa Bay does this time of the year is they make no bones about it. Their intention is not to sign Shohei Ohtani. They could care less where he plays baseball next year. But if the Tampa Bay Rays believe that they can win a division title and reach the World Series with Shohei Ohtani, they have shown in the past that they have no issue whatsoever with forking over young prospects because they just keep producing more. Now, I think there is an area of concern here because you look at how the Rays lost this weekend. It took all of their pitching. This weekend, I saw 3 common things. I saw the Orioles were able to get out early on Tampa in 3 of these 4 wins. I saw Tampa come back in 3 of these 4 wins, and then I saw Tampa give them away in 2 of the 4 games, I should say. The Rays trailed 5-0 yesterday to the Orioles, and came all the way back to tie it 5-5. And you thought that was the momentum that they needed, but then the Orioles score 1 in the very next inning to take the lead on a home run by Austin Hayes. And that's it. So their bullpen is letting them down. So, yes, they need something. There's something this team needs to jumpstart them. Whether it's Shohei Ohtani, I don't know, Knock, but I do know.
You could use more bullpen help, and that's always going to be key in a playoff run. That or a bat.
So here's what MLB had to say about a potential trade and who, potential. Let me pull this up because it's interesting what they think some of these teams are willing to give up. But with that said, I was impressed. I got a chance to see the Dodgers for 3 straight games. I was impressed with the way they played. I still think that when you look at the American League, I want to sit here and tell you that, yes, my Orioles are more than capable of sitting up top, and Dean Kramer has done a hell of a job pitching. The Orioles are starting to get pitching. They had Wells today, who only went 5 1/3. They had Rodrigo Lopez, who at the beginning of the year came up, had an 11 ERA. They sent him back down to the Tides. He went 8-0 with a 1.71 ERA. He's come back, and he has since flourished. So the pitching is starting to come around a little bit. The Orioles are relying awful lot on Felix Bautista, Mountain Man, and Yannier Cano. I mean, those guys are great together, but here we are at the end of July, and Cano's already at 28 saves. So it's like, the Twins, there was a reason. I know he's picked up something from last year to this year, but it's like, as an Oriole fan, you always wait for that other shoe to drop, that other shoe to fall. But as a Brewer fan, you got to be pretty excited because you finally got a prospect that came up this weekend that had a hell of a debut.
I mean, Sal Frelick, what a job he's done. I mean, the Brewers have been able to get outfielders. We've been able to get a couple of pitchers, Burns and Woodruff, obviously. Peralta, I kind of like to see him get a little bit more wins. But, yeah, no, Sal Frelick, what he did this past weekend to make an MLB debut, absolutely fantastic. The catches were just amazing with what he was able to accomplish against a good Braves team, too, that can definitely put some heat on the baseball.
Yeah, you're watching that on the screen. All right, so as you see Sal Frelick's Major League debut. Okay, so MLB lists 9 teams. And on August the 2nd, I believe Shohei Ohtani is going to be an Angel. But here's what MLB says the Rays would propose to perhaps get Shohei. They would trade their number 3 overall prospect, number 32 overall prospect overall. That's first baseman Kyle Manzardo. Their number 4 prospect and the number 38 overall prospect in baseball, Vidal Brujan. The left-handed pitcher, Mason Montgomery, who's their 5th best prospect, and right-handed pitcher, Cole Wilcox, their 8th best prospect. Now, again, one of the reasons the Rays have been so successful over the last 16 years, only the Dodgers, Yankees, and Cardinals have more regular season wins since 2008 than the Rays, is how carefully they have balanced the present and the future with a steady stream of young talent, and at times when it's necessary, that big trade that they'll pull. But if I'm the Rays, I don't give up my 3, I don't give up my 4, and I don't give up my 5 for Shohei. I don't.
I mean, the question is do you think Shohei can get you over the hump of a World Series?
I don't think he can there.
In Tampa, you don't think so?
No, I don't think he's the difference.
I
think they've got issues in their back end of their bullpen that's starting to come apart on them a little bit. We've seen it in the last 2 games. There's a reason they're 3-7 in their last 10. Their bats aren't going. Right now, Wander Franco is all or nothing. Randy Arozarena, the same thing. Randy Arozarena hasn't been the same since he participated in the home run derby. That guy's like he's in a home run derby all the time now, right? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with. He's got a lot of holes in his swing right now. Now, they do put the Orioles in here and this trade thing too. And they said the Orioles would give up their 5th best prospect, Connor Norby, their 6th best prospect in Hall, Dylan Beavers, and Kyle Stowers. I would do that because, first of all, it's not given. The Orioles still have what's not listed there is that 3 of the top 75 prospects in baseball, 85 prospects in baseball, are still in the Orioles system and aren't on this list. And Jackson Holliday is one of them. So if the Orioles could get an Ohtani for their 5th best prospect, their 6th best prospect, and their 9th best prospect, and still retain guys like Jackson Holliday, that might be something I would consider. But in the end, I think I would turn it down because I don't see the Orioles, Mike Elias, renting anybody. If he's going to go get Shohei Ohtani, then the expectation is he's going to sign him. And I don't see the Angelos family writing a $600 million check to anybody but the Angelos family.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest there, right? So I think when you look at a lot of these trades, like the Yankees, here it says they would trade Jason Dominguez, Oswald Peraza, Clark Schmidt, Trey Sweeney. That's the Yankees' top. They're 41, and their 5th best prospect in that. I don't see that either. I don't see the Yankees giving up the minor leagues like that. So in the end, I just think Shohei Ohtani is an angel at the end of the day on August the 2nd.
I mean, I would agree with that just because, again, the Angels are going to want a haul. There is no reason to give up Shohei and not get the best offer that you can for him. And if it's there, if it's not there, and teams aren't willing to part ways with a rental, then that's fine. You just walk away from the table because by trade deadline time, somebody's going to get desperate. if there's a serious offer.
He's sick. I mean, he had 2 more home runs. He's got 35. I think he had 2 more home runs today. 36, 37 home runs this year. It's unbelievable. I mean, we talk about him every week ad nauseum. All right, Knock, who's your Elite 8?
So my Elite 8, obviously it changes this week. I know last week we were coming off the All-Star break, so I didn't move Tampa off of it.
Right.
I've got Atlanta at 1. I've got Baltimore at 2. I got the Rangers at 3. The Rays at 4. Dodgers at 5. Astros at 6. I'm going to move my Brewers up to 7 and have the D-backs at 8.
All right, I got the Braves at 1, the Orioles at 2, the Rangers at 3, the Dodgers at 4, the Rays at 5, the Astros at 6, the Brewers at 7, and the Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays at 8. That's my Elite 8. I moved the Dodgers up because, again, I got to watch them earlier in the week play against the Orioles. I think the Dodgers are a well-rounded baseball team, but the Braves are incredible, 64-34. Although the Braves are struggling a little bit. They're 4-6 in their last 10. The hottest team in Major League Baseball right now it's a toss-up between 4 teams. Nobody's won 8 of their last 10. The Orioles have won 7. The Rangers have won 7. And that's it. So there you go. The Orioles and the Rangers and the Brewers, 7-3 in their last 10. So your Brewers, and they get a big boost with this rookie. So that is this week in baseball. We will definitely hit the trade deadline rumors a lot more next week. But before we do that, I wanted to just pull up a story real quick before we get off of baseball. Pull up a story real quick because I always think it's fascinating to look back on trades, right? Yeah. How did they work out? Okay, so last year at this time, the big prize was Juan Soto, right? So the Nationals were taking offers. And so the Padres get Soto. They get Josh Bell from the Nats for left-handed pitcher Mackenzie Gore, outfielder Robert Hassel, shortstop C.J. Abrams, outfielder James Wood, right-handed pitcher Jarlin Susana, and first baseman D.H. Luke Voigt. Now, the initial grade on this trade was an A+, and the revised grade on this, according to ESPN, is a C. I'd still take that deal.
C for who, though?
A C for the Padres. The Padres got an A+ last year. The Nationals got a B+. The Padres get a C this year. The Nationals get an A.
I was about to say, because that seems that deal right now is working out more for the Nationals.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because, I mean, the Padres spent a lot of money.
And they're one of the Padres got to be the most disappointing team in baseball this year.
No, absolutely. They're definitely the most disappointed team because, I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks are ahead of them. And the Padres are the second worst team in that division. So, yeah, no question that the Padres are definitely one of the most disappointing teams.
How about this one last year? San Diego gets Josh Hader from your Brewers for Taylor Rogers, Dinelson Lamet, I think, Robert Gasser, and Esteury Ruiz. How would you rate that one? Last year they gave the Brewers a C+, the Padres an A. This year they give them a D+, and the Padres still an A.
They gave the Brewers a D+?
They did, yeah.
Wow.
I know, right?
I'm trying. I want to know the reason. Is it the reason because of what it did to the team afterwards? Because if it is the reason for what it did to the team afterwards,
it says the moral of the story: clubhouse moral matters.
And I agree with that.
Right. Trading a key free agent to be when you have a real chance to win might not play as well in the locker room as it does on the spreadsheet.
Yep. No, I totally agree because I remember seeing that. I'll tell you right now, that was one of those moments where it was just like your heart kind of dropped because it was just like, what? I didn't expect him to be traded. That didn't make any sense. No. Now, again, you look at Rodgers. He was the second best closer in the National League behind Hader. So it wasn't like it was a complete loss in terms of that retrospect. But, yeah, no, the fact that they lost Hader completely demoralized that locker room. That was a big bonehead decision by the front office. I absolutely hated it. I ripped it. I was just upset. I mean, we had Josh Hader. Now, again, yeah, going into the break, he had some blown saves. I mean, I think he gave up like 6-7 runs to the Giants before the All-Star break. So, maybe they thought, oh, well, we'll get ahead of this than anything else. But, I mean, yeah, no, I was so angry with that move.
And then the Minnesota Twins, who gave away quite a few players last year. I don't know how they're still sitting at the top, but they are. They acquired Jorge Lopez from the Orioles for Cade Povich, Juan Rojas, Juan Nunez, And the best setup man in baseball, Yennier Cano. Last year, ESPN graded this an A- for the Twins and an F for the Orioles. This year, it's an A+ for the Orioles and an F for the Twins. Shocking. Shocking, isn't it?
I was about to say, I am so surprised. But the funny part is now both teams still sit at the top.
Yeah, no, it's true. Looking at some other trades, that's pretty much it. But, yeah, we'll have a lot more on the trade deadline on next Sunday's show. And I tell you, Knock, you got an angel and an idiot this week?
I do have an angel and an idiot this week.
Who you got, buddy?
Well, where do you want me to start, angel or idiot?
Well, start with the good. Let's start with the good.
All right, so angel of the week this week, I'm going to give it to Melbourne Bulldog football player. I believe it is Tyler Gagan. I'm not
Okay.
Tyler, I do apologize if I messed up your last name.
Okay.
But earlier this week, he was helping out kids out in his community over in Indian Harbor Beach. I know James Hines and that crew talked about being more participating in their community and helping out. Tyler definitely exuding that, so he is my angel of the week.
All right. Who's your idiot of the week?
Yeah, the idiot. There's a lot of idiots. You got to go over to Orlando. Go talk to the folks over at EA that are heading up the Madden department. Give them this award because the Madden ratings this week that were released, and ESPN was making a big deal out of it. I don't know why.
Okay.
Maybe it's just because they didn't have anything else to talk about. But Madden just sucks. It's not a fun game anymore. I don't know why the NFL gave the exclusive license to EA again the last time this came up a couple of years ago. EA's already having trouble with the college football game. I say give it to 2K. And I remember buying the 2K NFL games. They were the most fun to play. They actually came out, and I think it was the last year 2K actually had a football game before EA got the exclusive rights. It was $19.99. You didn't have to pay $60 for a NFL game. Because those NFL games, it's all sports games, as you know. I don't know if there's people visit GameStops anymore, but trade-in values on sports games is just after the championship is cents on the dollar.
Really?
Yes. So the fact that EA continues to charge $60 for the same game since 2018, 2019, and the game modes all get switched out. They're bringing back game modes that were popular with the 2004, 5, and 6 versions of Madden when it was on PS2. And so there's no innovation. There's no creative thought behind this thing. All this is, and Madden is also selling NFTs off the game. So on top of the fact that there's microtransactions to play Madden Ultimate Team, which if you got somebody that
I did.
Yeah. So I can go on and on. The rankings are idiotic. They're all based on social media, and they're all based on the narratives throughout the year. I mean, you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, they're going to put that team as one of the worst-ranked teams in the game to start out simply because of the narrative that they're a bad football team, even though the roster – I can give on the quarterback. But they didn't even have the Bucs in the top 10 defensive rankings. That's a top 10 defense.
Here's your quarterback rankings. Mahomes 1, Burrow 2, Allen 3, Jackson 4, Hurts 5, Herbert 6. Prescott's tied with him. They both have an 87 overall ranking. How in the hell is Dak Prescott tied with Justin Herbert? Aaron Rodgers is 8th. Kirk Cousins 9th. And Tua Tagovailoa is 10th. Obviously, Tom Brady drops out because he's retired. Russell Wilson dropped out of the top 10. He's 8th. Matt Stafford dropped out. He was 10th.
Yeah, how did he got hurt?
Yeah.
How did Stafford drop out? And then in the wide receiver rankings with Cooper Kupp. I mean, Cooper Kupp's a better wide receiver. He's a top 10 guy. He got hurt. He was out for the season. And on top of this, too, let me ask you, because I know you're a Ravens fan.
Yeah.
Would you say, if you're basing it off last year and not social media,
Right.
would you put Hurts ahead of Lamar Jackson?
Yes.
Because I would.
I
don't understand why Jackson.
I don't understand that either. And I'm going to be honest with you. I take Jalen Hurts over Lamar Jackson all day long. I just would. I've told that to Caleb. You got Justin Jefferson as the number 1 wide receiver.
Makes sense.
Okay. Well, I'd probably argue Tyreek Hill over him. But Tyreek Hill 2, Devontae Adams 3, Stephon Diggs 4, Cooper Kupp tied with Stephon Diggs and ahead of Jamar Chase.
I don't understand. Coop is one of the best wide receivers. I think he hit the Triple Crown mark.
Yeah.
The year they won the Super Bowl. He's a great wide receiver. Why he wasn't, or why he was tied for top 5? He's one of the best receivers. I would say he's ahead of Devontae Adams.
You think so?
I don't understand the Devontae Adams hype, the hype train. Rodgers fed him.
Right.
That's fine. What did he do with the Raiders?
Nothing.
Exactly. So why is he the top 5 wide receiver? Like, I don't understand it. I just don't. Devontae, I mean, again, he's a great wide receiver, but if anybody deserves to get knocked down, it's Adams. Cooper Kupp, he got hurt. How are you going to knock him for getting hurt? I don't get it.
No.
Like I said, the idiots of the week, everybody at Madden. I think this game is going to do very poorly.
I'm gonna piggyback on your idiot of the week. I'll go EA as well. And I can't really call my guy an idiot of the week. So have you heard about this thing that goes on in Atlanta, where between innings, you race a guy? He's called Mr. Freeze. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Now, Mr. Freeze gives fans about a quarter pole of a head start, about 200 yards head start. And then he beats them in a race across. Well, here are some of the Mr. Freeze races. This has been going on in Atlanta since 2017, and it's really quite incredible because the people that are under this outfit are former college track stars.
Oh, is that the same guy?
Two different guys they use.
Oh, okay.
Two different guys. But in between one inning, the Nationals will run their president mascots at. But the Braves at Truist Park bring a fan onto the field. Track and field star Durian Dunn is currently Mr. Freeze. Okay, he's currently the guy behind the goggles and the tracksuit. Nigel Talton debuted as the Freeze more than 6 years ago. So the guy you're seeing on your screen right now is Nigel Talton. Talton is a Georgia native, and he was a high school, college, and track star. Now, Thursday, during this event, one fan had an opportunity to defeat Mr. Freeze, and he does take a loss sometimes. Sometimes he loses. Sometimes he can't catch these people that get head starts on him. But this guy on Thursday was mere feet from the finish line when he decided to interrupt his rhythm and take a peek behind him. And when he did so, as you see on your screen, you see him look over his left shoulder right there. He changes, trips, falls, and goes face first into the warning track gravel. Poor guy loses his glasses. I don't know if he's an angel or an idiot, but he certainly gets my sympathy award of the week. First
So
of all,
close.
this is one of the greatest in-between inning promotions I have ever seen in the history of Major or Minor League Baseball. This is an incredible promotion, and I think I would have got up and beat that guy's ass and put that camera in front of my face. Just saying. Right there on national TV for the world to see. Brevard Sports Network, Alan Slaughterzinski jailed in Atlanta for beating up cameraman. But but if I'm laying on the ground, my glass is broken, and I just tripped up a foot from the finish line, and some guy sticks a camera, yeah, we got issues. But this is just a great promotion, and my heart goes out to this guy who just fell right on, and I'll show it again, right on his face. That one little peek, I don't know what I guess he just got his feet crossed up. I mean, he's got this guy's got track tennis shoes on, man. I mean, not good.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes flying literally like a superhero. I mean, his arms are out. I mean, he is full Monty in the air, man. He is done. It's just.
And that clay is not easy to slide on.
No, it's not. And that's gravel. People don't understand that hurts.
Yeah, I was about to say, that doesn't look like that'd be fun to slide on or anything like that. But, yeah, no, I honestly thought he tried to jump for the finish line because he thought that Mr. Freeze was behind him. That's what I initially thought when I saw this replay. I'm like, did he try and jump for the finish line?
So this poor guy, but look, Mr. Freeze, again, he does take an L, but what an incredible athleticism by the guy in the tracksuit that catches these people. But you better believe it. He raced Chad Ochocinco, I think, like a year ago. And Ocho Cinco got the head start. And guess what? He beat him. Guy came back and beat him. But Knock, always a good show.
Absolutely.
Love doing this show. Just end with a couple of, like we do every week, just a couple of quick tidbits here. Ellie De La Cruz today. Knock hit his 5th home run today. Tied Barry Bonds, 1986, for the second fewest games needed to reach 5 home runs and 15 stolen bases. De La Cruz has since 1900. So there's a good stat for the day. Let's see here. The Hall of Fame was going on in baseball today. We talked about Sal Frelick. He is the first player in Brewers franchise history with 3+ hits and 2 RBIs in his major league debut. He's only the 6th player over the last 25 seasons with 3 hits and the game-winning RBI in his major league debut. The U.S. women's soccer team defeated Vietnam 3-0 in their opening game. When's their next one?
I don't know.
World Cup. I will say this. They didn't cover the over because the over-under total on that thing was like 7. I think the United States won their first game. Women won their first game of the World Cup 4 years ago, like 11-0, and they were supposed to win this one like 6-7-0, and won, I think, 3-0.
The next game is July 26th against the Netherlands.
Wednesday against the Netherlands. So, final thoughts, Not?
I'm just ready for high school football. I can't wait for the coaches show on Tuesday. I know you'll kind of highlight them once again, but I'm ready. And I'm happy that the Bucs got training camp opening tomorrow. I can't wait for more video and all the things that go along with training camp. Can't wait for that. And I'm jacked. We're almost to the end of July. Where's the first 7 months of this year gone? But I'm ready for fall. I love fall season.
I am too. I'm definitely ready for fall, and it's coming up. Kickoff Classics are the 18th. Officially today, 35 days until kickoff. 35. When we do the coaches show the other night, that Knock alluded to, our coaches in attendance will include the following: Ryan Schneider, Hurley Brown, Ben Waldrop, Mitchell Brown, the defensive coordinator for Palm Bay, will be in place of the legendary Dan Burke. Michael Benson from Heritage, Cliff Nichols from Space Coast, Shane Staples from Beer, and Tyler Murray from Merritt Island. Once again, don't forget next Sunday, the road to Dallas for you budding college football players, the Global Sports Athletics Brevard County Regional Combine from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Tom McIntyre Stadium at Melbourne. Stay tuned. I'll put a post up, and you can click on the link and get registered. You must do so by Thursday coming up. And, of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Archaic Designs. They just do a terrific job, and like I like to say, Archaic Design, kitchen and bath, everything, including the kitchen sink. So for Caleb Brown, for Anthony Nachreiner, I'm Alan Slaughter-Zinski. You've been watching Mouth and Off Sports Talk. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next Sunday night. Same bad time, same bad